Juan Sarsur, and my research was for Comp 227 was the effectiveness of office hours. One, you know, what does it mean for office hours to be effective? Overall, in my research, I did part B on trying to research, and trying to gather student insight. So, from the student perspective, effective office hours essentially should mean, what does it mean? Can the student make progress in any assignments that they were struggling in? Is there an increased understanding in the student's comprehension of the class material? Does a student feel more confident on the class material and prepared for any examinations, as well as also being able to get any questions related to the class, even logistical questions answered, or at least become more knowledgeable for relating to those questions. Why did I choose to study the effectiveness of office hours? To be honest, there's a lot of reasons why I chose to study it and to research this student insight on this topic. Was one, office hours is known to be, the best source of knowledge, and best resource outside of the class. It's also the last line of defense for homework help after, uh, you know, discussing with friends, looking over assignments, documentation, and Google. After all else fails, office hours is the last line of defense. And we're also amongst the first resources that students tend to come up to, when trying to seek answers for conceptual questions. So all those I think throughout the semester really interested me into researching specifically this topic. But also I noticed a lot of students complaining within office hours about certain aspects of the effectiveness of office hours and even cohorts, because we had hosted cohorts throughout the semester as well. You know, how I chose to study and measure office hours effectiveness was through a survey style means. Over these last few weeks, just because of days off and other situations, it was harder to try to conduct in-person interviews, especially because office hours were in a hybrid mode. So created a Google survey, which asked about the frequency of going to office hours, the benefits of detriments of attending office hours, and the preference on when to go to office hours, if it's a specific person, a specific time, and why. My means and medium to getting the survey out was asking students that came to office hours to fill out the form, as well as sending it within the Comp 301 group me. There's a group me filled with students, so I thought it'd be a great place to also try to get some answers. As for my findings, 50% of respondents said they attended office hours between 3 to 5 times throughout the entire semester. Um, there's two thirds of respondents, or I apologize, one third of respondents, uh, you know, two-thirds of the remaining respondents believed that they had attended office hours about less than 3 times, and the remaining attended office hours way more than 5 times. So most of the averages were above, but most of the averages of respondents were about 3 to 5 times. Two-thirds of the students believed office hours was helpful most of the time, and half of the students who answered the survey also believed that some LAs were better than others. As for their explanations, a couple are listed here. Some students believed that some TAs were better at helping and explaining. But a criticism is, you know, that a lot of students faced was a lot of the TAs also sometimes get confused on what's wrong when it relates to students' code. So not being able to really help with debugging was a common criticism. Uh, as for what this means and it relates to the literature that we've gone through in class, is throughout Brent and Fedler's paper on students' differences, they emphasize the need on students with different learning techniques, different behaviorals, patterns, personalities, tend to need, different ways of support, different sense of motivation and whatnot. Uh, and ultimately, that seemed to show as well within these responses throughout the surveys. Again, some of the students seem to rely on office hours for pure knowledge, but there was a couple of respondents that depended on going to different LAs just because of how their social interactions with previous LAs. So if they didn't feel like the one LA was as kind or as nice, they wouldn't go to that person. So and again, for the knowledge base, if they didn't feel like one student was, if they felt that one LA was more knowledgeable than the others, they tended to go to that person's office hours, which ended up making office hours lopsided in their opinion on when they could attend personally. But obviously, the literature shows that this tends to be the case. People interact with uh, individuals who feel like they have a better representation towards, some familiarity with, etc. And that same things just seem to be reflective throughout the survey as well. As for implications and suggestions for future LAs, one, we have to ensure that future LAs review the class material throughout the semesters to make sure that they're sharp and can answer, conceptual questions better and more effectively, but also be able to understand solutions to different assignments. So this will help students who had complained about TAs not being able to help debugging. If LAs had a better understanding of how certain solutions worked, and had read up on the solution at least a little bit prior to the release of the assignment, it would definitely help their understanding and their ability to debug for students that do come into office hours. And being LAs also having to be aware of some logistical matters relating to the class, exam times and maybe grading questions, etc., stuff like that. So it would also be good to ensure that future LAs have those types of general questions answered. But most importantly, LAs need to be willing to adapt different learning styles, and being able to do so would help not only LAs become better instructors, but also end up helping a variety of students succeed far more in the class. Thank you.